I woke up to Madam Savvy, who has been knocking it out of the park lately with everything that she's covering. So shout out to Savvy. I said, breaking Remedy Games accused of lying about FBC player count, exaggerating player numbers. Oh, and fun fact, they blocked me when looking into them, which I found this out this morning when I was like, oh, I saw Madam Savvy. I went to go research what they posted. And I'm like, why is everything grayed out? Why can't I hard anything? Oh, the actual studio blocked me. And keep me honest here, guys. I don't recall ever tweeting anything too aggressive at them. Maybe I quote tweeted with my video posting some sus things about them, but nothing that I would render myself being blocked by. But hey, to each their own. But when a game company blocks you, apparently as a content creator, that tells me they definitely watch my content. So hi, Remedy Games. Thanks for watching. But why would you block me? That's so weird. What a weird move to do that. But regardless, I said, not a great look. Sam Lake, who is, if you're not familiar, I believe he's the head of Remedy Games. He's writer, director, BAFTA nominated actor. Most well known for being the motion actor guy in Max Payne. Doesn't look like you guys are going to be able to continue lying to investors moving forward. So this was their post initially today that, again, like I said, I'm blocked on, but I saw thanks to Madam Savvy. And Remedy Entertainment said, as of last night, we have surpassed 1 million players in FBC Firebreak, which press X to doubt, because we're going to go into the numbers right now. And I don't know if you guys know, 1 million is a very high number. I know it gets thrown out there a lot with games these days because there's a lot of people that play games. So you hear the word 1 million in a game, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, games are pretty big, whatever. But when you see the concurrent player counts on Steam and stuff, you're like, something doesn't pass the smell test here. Something odd about how they worded this. Surpassed 1 million players in FBC Firebreak. Does that mean, are they counting a player in a game as the character in a game? And they have 4 players in the game and every round is 4 players. So they're just adding that over and over again, even if it's the same people playing those 4 players over and over again with every round. Is that how? Because the way they worded this is very weird. This is a significant milestone. Thank you for playing from all of us at Remedy. We know there is still a lot of work ahead of us, and we are super motivated about it. We still have exciting things, and it goes on from there because blah, 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 blah. The game came out, and it has 6 guns. For a game that launched, it had 6, and that was one of the major knocks on it. Where the gameplay is pretty generic, and there's only 6 guns to pick from. It's not a huge repertoire. So Savvy took this and said, show proof, and brings up the SteamDB page where it has 114 people currently in game. How this game came out a week ago, by the way. I have so many questions. And it goes on. Madam Savvy continues. She says, no, you have not. You launched with bugs that break the game, and many of which are still not fixed. You did not come close to 1 million players. A game doesn't have sub 150 on PC and 999,985 players on console. Million players, not copies sold. What did you do? Give it away in India, which was a pretty epic takedown. And Savvy continued, nothing they made or did works, by the way. We are aware of some FBC Firebreak players on PS5 being stuck on the login screen with the spinning triangle, and some getting disconnected from the game with error code 2020 22001. If you're experiencing these issues, please get in touch with our player support team. RPG Dust says, when they say 1 million players, they do not mention it at one time. So most likely a count of how many times people hit their servers. And with issues of players logging on, that total can become high due to constantly trying to get on, which 100% what I think it is as well. Savvy replied, this is what I'm thinking. One of their own staff says plenty of players, which is a far cry from what you'd say if 1 million people were interested. But that doesn't stop the game industry business and the journos to run defense for their buddies at Remedy. We have Game Rant running with the story. They see it posted and they want to get this out there so that Remedy can share this with their shareholders and investors and be like, look, we announced it and there's proof of it that we're getting the positive press out there for this game. Guys, before I even go through this article, look at this. This was from earlier tonight. 141 players in concurrently. Ready for this? It might be under 100 when I refresh. I'm not even joking. Ready? Let's see. Oh, still over 100, but it did drop 10. 131 players concurrently. This game came out like a week ago. What the? June 17th. Like 9 days ago it came out. 9 days ago. Concurrent peak under 2,000. 131 people in it concurrently right now. And yes, again, it is on console, to be fair. But you cannot say you have had 1 million players. That is a lie. That's a straight up lie. This is going from 1 million sales to deceiving people by saying 1 million players engaged to now we're reaching the point of they definitely did not get 1 million different people engaged with this. So now they're going to they're having server errors. So they're pinging, logging on over and over and over again to get through. And they're counting that multiple times potentially to get to that number of 1 million people concurrently, just to try to get a positive press story out there, which, I mean, hey, props to them. They did get a positive story out there with this game. But that's the problem, is they straight up deceived people by getting to that number. And what do they do to reward people that call this shit out? They block them. This is a game company that is not pro players. This is anti-gamers, pro investors that you could argue, especially with Alan Woke too, that pushes DEI wherever they have an opportunity to do so. FBC Firebreak on Steam costs $40. And the reviews are mixed, which is not great for a game that came out 9 days ago. I've had fun with Firebreak. I'm going to keep playing, but I can't recommend spending $40 in its current state. As someone who has 800 hours in DRG, 600 in Payday, blah, 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 blah. After 11 hours, while I did enjoy, there have been some major caveats that prevents me from actively recommending this. Some other positives, and then we get to left the game running by accident, so could not get a refund. Don't make the same mistake as me. What the absolute hell is this? God, this is the worst game I've played in a long time. So bad. I'm actually refunding for the first time. Never thought I'd actually have to shoot sticky notes as an objective in a game. Absolute 10 out of 10 design. FBC Firebreak is a first-person team-based style co-op shooter that focuses on 3 players, and it talks about, this is like a full-on review, the good and the bad. Overall thoughts, let's get to that. 5 out of 10. Really wanted to enjoy this game and put a ton of hours into it, but right now it's not even close to being there for $40. I can't say I'd recommend this. So, I mean, that seems to be fairly across the board outside of the super positives. A mixed review out of 1,400, where only 66% of the reviews are positive, is not great. And 1,400 reviews, somehow you're telling me this has reached the 1 million player count? I have massive question marks about that. So I'm not going to read through this article. I just really wanted to bring it up to show that this is how they puff the press and push positive puff pieces out there to just share these with their investors, because their investors don't play games. So their investors will load this article up, read this, look at this picture, and be like, "Oh, what are these gamers playing these days? These dorks on the internet. What do they play? I guess they're playing this game. 1 million players concurrently. Oh, this must be the next big thing. Here, take my money, Remedy." When in reality, I feel like it's extremely deceiving, deceitful, and straight up lying to their investors. And this is something that I genuinely feel like should be investigated by the authorities and powers that be. But at this point, it feels like they're getting so desperate that they don't even care. They're like, yeah, they'll take their chance on that. Savvy replied to me. She said, he doesn't care. He won't even advertise the game. I said, it's sad to see a studio with so much potential turn to this. And Coffee and Chocolate says, yes, although to call it straight, the unputdownable play it again and again game for me was Alan Wake 1. And then they really haven't topped that in 15 years. Nothing else close. Dash says, I don't blame Quantum Break not being as good as Alan Wake 1 entirely on them. Microsoft really effed them over, make them do a show, recasting. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Seems totally legit. It says Akalon, who is now Stefan ZA. Jay Viper says, my only conclusion is that it's from Game Pass, and I think they are very frugal with how they count players over there. If someone even installs it, I'm pretty sure it counts, which might be true. And shout out to Kyle. I see Kyle here showing some of their old stuff. Oh, yeah, this Vita Starchevic creature that was extremely woke and a Sweet Baby Inc. collaborator that I covered in a previous video that is propped up over at Remedy Games still to this day. So, yeah, there's a lot of sus things, I'd say, going on with this FTC Firebreak game. And I'm very curious to see if there ever is an investigation into this, what comes from it. But I'll leave that there.